Welcome to ELI Today. It's 1:30 on the East Coast, 10:30 Pacific. We're here today to discuss our ELI Consulting project, and I'm Matt Kennedy.
Hi, I'm Rachna.
Hi, I'm Vibhav.
I am Ichun.
I'm Steve.
Now, we had a very interesting consulting project, and all of us learned quite a bit, and some good and some bad. We're going to discuss with you what we learned, and we're also going to discuss with you our impact on the project and how excited we were to have this opportunity to learn here at the Krannert School of Management. So what we're going to start off with is, Rachna, what do you think really went well in this project?
There was a lot of learning for me on the project, and there are a few things that I learned from each of you on the team, and that was a key takeaway for me. For example, Steve is like really organized, and he's very task oriented. So he can get a lot of things done in a very crunched sort of a timetable. And that's pretty great because that's a time management skill that I need to learn too. From Matt, I learned the 80-20 rule of getting things done. It's something that we used to discuss a lot about in the initial stages, like uh, don't spend like 80% of your time doing just 20% of your stuff. Focus on getting the work done and getting it done as well as possible. Each one, she always asks the tough questions, and I think it's very important, especially in a consulting project, where you need to really find out the whys of what's happening. And Vibhav has a very great skill and art of being soft spoken, and he has a great analytical skill. So he has a lot of analytical skills, and that's something that I really need to implement too. And on the project side, on the client side, the consulting experience was great. And there are some things which we think are fairly obvious in real life. For example, great communication. But when it actually comes down to implementation, we see that there are issues.
Now, Steve, you'd mentioned some things before you were proud of as well. Can you talk about those?
Sure. I'll talk about some things that I was proud of and also some major learnings. I thought we did a good job in this project capturing the voice of the customer, understanding really what they were needing and providing the product that they actually wanted. I know that when we went to the final meeting, we presented the nuts and bolts dashboard and survey and framework. There was only one little area that was brought up as being one that we didn't capture. So we did a good job thinking like the client as we were designing the products themselves. But I do have some learnings as well I want to talk about briefly. Our team struggled, and we're all new, by the way. None of us come from traditional consulting backgrounds, so this was a challenge. Letting the client drive the project, we learned a lot from that. Kind of took their word as gold and let them tell us and set our schedule for accomplishing tasks when we probably should have pushed back a little bit more. Secondly, as we've learned in alliances like this, they really struggle if there's not a clear resource allocation in the beginning. And I'm talking about resource allocation from the human capital side. If people don't know who is assigned to lead the project and that shifts up and down the organization through the rank and file, then it really slows things down. And our client specifically was going through some restructuring and still is. And they did not have a good outline of what that should look like, and it hurt their project a little bit. Scheduling meetings is hugely time consuming when you're trying to go back and forth, especially in an organization that uses a lot of administrative assistance and people are not fully allocated to the project. And more specifically, when you have multiple people trying to do that on your team and schedule the meetings, if you don't specify the roles of the team clearly in the beginning and get those kind of, you hate to use the word silos, but get those clear work paths set up, those swim lanes, then it can be difficult deciding who's supposed to be doing what, and to hold each other accountable to get the project done in a timely manner. Which, although Rachna complimented me on being able to get things done in a very short amount of time, unfortunately we had to get things done in a very short amount of time. And if we would have done it better in the beginning, we would have not had to do that. We could have spent more time working as a team to build our end product versus, a smaller subset of us working on it very quickly. So, Matt, those are my learnings.
All right, excellent. Great comments, Steve.
Thanks.
Now, you come from a science background, isn't that correct?
Not really.
Well, he's more of a scientific kind of
Yeah.
background.
Graduate school.
Yes,
But,
yes.
yeah.
So, what was kind of different for you? What were some of your key learnings coming from not necessarily a business background, but a little bit of a different one?
Yes, so one thing I want to say is that in graduate school or in academia, even though we're also working in a team, it's more like task or project oriented. People are very straightforward. They discuss the problems or the projects we're going on. They probably not paying too much attention to interpersonal interactions. But in this project, what I learned is that the people skill is very important. I have to put myself into, to be more soft when I'm talking to other people. And the other thing is what I learned from industry or corporate is that a lot of projects in companies are not task-oriented, more like ownership-oriented. For example, if they don't know who's going to be responsible for this project, they will not dive into it.
Mm-hmm.
This will really postpone their project or the process of developing products or stuff. And this, I think, is one of the major pitfalls, what I learned in industry, which is something I think I can, adjust myself when I get a job in industry in the future. And the other thing is, I think in this project, even though we're consultant, we're supposed to provide suggestions to clients, but I personally feel like I actually learned more from our clients than as ourselves, because we're, in fact, just students, we're still learning. So, so I think that's two things I want to say. What I learned from this project.
Very interesting.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. Yeah.
So, Vibhav, we were talking off camera a few minutes ago, and you had
Yeah.
some interesting learnings as well. Do
Eh,
you mind sharing some of those?
Yeah, man. As I was telling you, I come from a construction background, so I have had some experiences in managing alliances, but those were like kind of project management, wherein this is the cost and this is the work to be done and this is the timeline. That's it. Come to this project where you have an industry, where you have an university in picture, and the game changes totally. The human factor comes into play. People should be happy with the alliance. Then only productivity increases. So this was something new for me. Otherwise, it was like building a building. You have made 10 stories, you'll get this much amount of money. But this is not what was here. So this is one of the biggest learning. Other than that, the soft skill, as all of our team members said, was pretty important. So looking back at the project, and I think you'll agree too. So when we started, we had this huge zeal of energy. We started doing our research, reading journal articles, and we came up with a framework within like first 2 or 3 weeks of the class.
Yeah.
And we were hugely appreciated by the customer, by our faculty, by everyone. And then somewhere we were on a high, and then I think, lost the track. And then again, come the end of the project, we slogged in. And going by customers' feedback, I think we did well. But my learning to this would be, in my next project, what I'll try to do is maintain the energy level in the middle portion of the project too. So that is one thing that I'll take. Other than that, the whole team dynamics, gelling with the team, everyone comes with their opinion, and then getting along with each other. Like, for example, Eugen. I mean, some of the questions, which I would have never thought of.
Yeah, exactly.
And she brought in a different point
Yeah.
of view. So that is important. Whenever I'm building a team, say for example, in future, I'll make sure I have a person who has a totally different perspective on the team. So yeah, those are my key learnings.
Hashtag
The
diversity.
Hashtag
absolutely.
diversity.
Hashtag
Oh, we had
diversity.
incredible diversity on this team. Oh my gosh! You look at the backgrounds
Hashtag,
here.
hashtag.
You know, just, yeah, incredibly different backgrounds. And yeah, hashtag, as you said, incredible working with such talented people.
And just one more thing to add to that, you know, going to dashboard. I mean, I really love our dashboard that we
Yeah.
are delivering, but my idea for the dashboard was a complete fancy looking thing which could do anything and everything the customer wanted with our logics built in. But you know, there is where Steve comes in with his calmness and says, you know what, that's great, but we have to finish this in time and we are already slogging. So he built in something that works, that looks great and is deliverable. So, you know, that is another learning, that you could aim as high as you want, but the time constraints, you have to keep in mind that too. So that was another learning from Steve.
Well,
Last one.
I think all of you guys have hit the learning, so I'm going to talk about what I'm most proud of. And it's, you know, being able to see your teammates develop and get better. The other thing that I, from an educational experience, was so proud of was, you know, being able to leave an impact for our company and, you know, possibly, you know, save, you know, as a company is trying to save lives, you know, that we have a small part of doing that. You know, when I'm sitting in a classroom, you know, no offense if I'm sitting in finance or marketing, all I'm doing is learning for me versus this, where I'm learning for me, but I'm also potentially, you know, saving lives or making shareholders money, which is what I care about.
We're both.
You know, and both, which is ideally what you want to do.
Right.
But, you know, where else can you really get that kind of experience?
Whoops.
What?
Sorry about that.
So that's, to me, what's really cool about being on a Eli project. And I think the biggest thing from our standpoint, just from my own learning, was, you know, kind of your point earlier was the intensity in the middle was, I think you have to set the milestones, because normally when you're on a class syllabus, you're kind of going, okay, well, we'll, you know, wait closer to the end and do that. Versus this, it's too big a project. You can't do it as much at the end as what you normally do, especially with other things. So you have to kind of treat this almost day to day and be consistent within your hours and consistent within your process.
Another thing I learned about the consulting process was that initially I thought that consultants are hired just for delivering new solutions to the client, but one of the things our client mentioned in our previous meeting was that sometimes they, or in fact more often than not, they hire consultants just to say the things that are too tough for them to say to their employees, and those are things that everybody already knows, but they need a third party to say it from an unbiased perspective. So that was also a learning for me.
Hashtag state the obvious.
Yeah. So so these were new things that I learned about the consulting experience too. Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for today. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we hope you enjoyed the video, and hope you enjoyed our project as much as we enjoyed being on it. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Should you subscribe?
To subscribe.